She Quest Podcast is heart-opening dialogues for self-identified women on a She Quest, a movement moving forward, striving to live aware, bold, and whole. Welcome to your fourth She Quest Summer School Podcast guest series. It's me, Estelle. And this fourth guest show is all about women and unleashing your voice. And for this, I've brought a very special and gorgeous, magnetic guest. Bryde Maclean is from PEI, whom I personally know since we both practice and teach yoga. And Bryde was brought to yoga by anxiety and fear that led to deserted eating. But in yoga, she found movement and vitality. She teaches a strong and moving class, and I can attest to this for sure. Bryde went to Ryerson for acting, works in the film and theater industry, but you might also know her best for her genius, quirky, and oh so real Turn Me On podcast, whom she co-hosts with her husband, Jeremy. I pleasantly learned while digging to find her bio that she's obsessed with words, just like me. And hopefully we get to kick around a few here today. Maybe yes, maybe no, it doesn't matter. I've always felt really drawn to her, and I'm just so excited to grace you with her presence. Welcome, Bryde.
Wow. Thank you so much. I'm totally super blushing.
Yay for blushing. So here at She Quest, it's kind of like our program is based on striving to live aware and bold and whole as women. And I've been starting all my podcasts with the ritual of asking my guests, what makes you feel alive today? So I'm just asking you today, what makes you feel alive?
Well, I have to say it is an amazing, deep, long night's sleep last night and the beautiful, warm sunshine beaming down on me this morning. It's been so rainy, and then when we get these sunny days, it's like, oh, like deep, deep warmth.
Like a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Blinding. Amazing. So I wanted you on She Quest for many reasons, but as you know, you're our guest for the voice portion of this program, and our voice, which I think just so grossly overlooked when having this conversation about standing in our power as women. And you're the only person that have taken a vocal yoga workshop from. And I feel seriously when I was thinking, I was like, who could speak confidently about our voice? I just love the technical way that you taught me about voice, and just coming from like your theater background, and also from your experience of being a teacher and actor and just a woman. But you really stand out to me as being an emblem when it comes to speaking out and saying the things that like nobody wants to talk about. And so this long-winded question, I'd love for you to like just talk to us about how you got to kind of reclaim or just kind of reframe this word voice, and how do you come to have a conscious base for your voice? And maybe like the easiest way to think about it, let's say if you think of yourself like 10 years ago, the voice that you had 10 years ago from the voice that you have now as a woman, like what has changed? Like how did you like reclaim that?
10 years ago is a great frame of time, because 10 years ago I was in acting school, and I was, we do movement, we do voice, we study text and so on. And up until that point, I was really unaware. I had always been told when I was on stage prior to school that I was kind of hard to hear and I needed to speak up, and you're always trying to project your voice, and I have a father with a booming, loud, projected voice. So, I really took that to heart, that was something that was kind of lacking in me. And so when I was at school and we were doing all this voice work, and I wasn't getting it. And at least my teachers were saying I wasn't getting it. And I wasn't landing, I wasn't sounding connected to what I was saying, which is how they put it to me. And so finally it was my third year in acting school, and we were doing what's called period study, which is like we're studying a piece of theater from a couple of 100 years ago. And It's very big and very grand and very large with the body, like lots of big physical gestures. And so my acting teacher at that point basically was like, it's there physically, but when your voice comes out, it's this voice of a little girl. And I was like, well, goddamn, that's not going to work. And so I worked deeply and, really intensely on my voice without knowing what I was doing. Like, it's honestly like holding a candle in a dark cave and just trying different things and working with knowledgeable people who are experts in breath and in voice, that eventually this sound one day came out of my voice, and I'm like pretty much immediately started bawling because it's shocking. It's shocking when a sound comes out that feels like it's resonating through your whole body. And when I say resonating, I mean like vibrating, like you can feel your own voice coming from a place that's like deep and supported from your diaphragm, from the deepest part of your lungs, that is free around your voice and around your throat and around your face and around your chest, so that
Mm,
your rib cage is vibrating, your pelvis is vibrating, your legs are vibrating, your arms are vibrating, and it feels a little bit frightening. It feels frightening for sure. And and I think I had it for a moment and it was gone, and I've been just working to practice to reconnect with that feeling again and again, through the exercises that I've learned and through the ones I've taught myself, and through basically the last 10 years of working to be that connected to the sound of my voice, to the meaning of the words that I'm saying as a teacher too, especially.
yeah, I love that. I love talking to you so much. And should we say the llast time we saw each other was in a bar too?
Yeah, yeah, not
Not
great for
great,
the voice to be.
but because just everything you say, like, I think you know this, but I went to theater school too, which seems like a lifetime ago, and
Mhm,
all this, like, I completely remember like this moment where I was speaking, but with my body. And
mhm,
it wasn't the same thing as, just speaking. It was like this full on connection. And I'm wondering if you could speak maybe a bit more about that. Like, how are we able, like, I know a big thing for me personally, like, I try to breathe in my feet now and not just
mhm,
in my throat. Like, that's the most simplest way I guess I can speak of it. But I know in your workshop, I loved that connection to your belly. And, in yoga philosophy, we speak of the belly as being this like just this powerhouse of fire and of, power and will and determination. And what do you do to speak with your body?
so a big part of my practice for my voice is body scan for any unnecessary extra tension, especially in the places where I personally hold them, which I think I see and hear in a lot of other voices, which is the throat, the jaw, the belly is a big one that we hold in for lots of
Belly is
reasons.
huge.
Because
The
yeah,
belly is huge. Yeah.
yeah, because the belly and the core, we think of it, it's important to be strong, and to be tall and to be powerful in that area, but it's also necessary to be soft, to learn how to hold yourself soft there as well, because that area really needs to be free to expand, to then use some abdominal muscles to contract as you exhale all the air out, as it's carrying your voice and carrying your sound out and far from your body. That's speaking from the diaphragm. It's just another way of looking at it. I found it really helpful to find different vocabulary for speaking about the voice than speaking about yoga. And like, I don't talk about core when I'm teaching voice. I don't talk about um, too much about like the skeleton or the bones or alignment or anything like that, because I think it's just really important to have as much freedom and relaxation in your body as you can, so that your voice can rise really easily and without any of your habitual tension creeping in at the last second, right before you say the thing that you feel really inclined to say, and keeping you quiet, or making you, justify, or, prepare everyone for what you're about to say. It's like, no, what happens if we just get all of those impulses to edit, to critique, out of the way, so the voice, it's scary, it's vulnerable, because who knows what's going to come out when you're really going to say something that you feel,
Yeah.
and you don't get the chance to protect people or soften it or whatever. But yeah, I think a lot about my feet on the ground. So I know I'm not gonna get so, you know, out there that I float completely away from the earth. My feet are on the ground. The backs of my knees are soft. My belly is soft so that my pelvis can hang in a really nice neutral way. And I breathe I breathe down into the bottom of my lungs, and I try to release a sound that's fueled by breath. So it's not being forced. It's just a release of sound, is the way I like to think of it.
Yeah, and wouldn't you agree, like, it's your voice is like a muscle almost. Like, it's like like, let's say, speaking from your body, like, it's something we like, I know I constantly have to practice over and over again. And as teachers, you kind of have to. Would you agree it's like a muscle, or?
Yeah, well, I think of it as an instrument, and it's like, you practice. People who are amazing with their instruments, they practice really regularly. And it might seem daunting, I guess, to someone who's new to the practice of voice, to be like, okay, well, 10 years and you still have to practice. And it's like, oh, absolutely, because because
Like, every day, I know.
we gotta stay aware of, like, the tension in our bodies. We've got a lot of familiar old buddies of tension in our bodies, but there's new stuff coming all the time. And we live in an environment that can sometimes be really stressful. And the first step is just noticing, where's my tension right now, and softening that. That's always step number one for me.
Yeah, and I mean, yoga has been because essentially, when you practice yoga, you kind of, well, for you release the tension, but also you become like a clear conduit
Mm,
for what wants to come through and out, right? It's almost like you um, get out of your own way. I know I heard some, and you must have heard the same thing, but like, I never make the connection of my voice as being a
mm,
vibration, like my voice being like a wavelength, and that, like, the first thing that ever was a
mhm.
sound,
Yeah.
and like, I never, and when I made that connection, and then it made so much sense with yoga being like, I am really just a big old wavelength. Like, I just don't see it this way. Have you ever, like, heard that,
Oh
or
yeah.
see it?
I
Yeah.
saw a headline yesterday. I follow a lot of, like, neuroscience pages, and I
Yeah.
saw a headline yesterday that was like, could it be that everything that is just a vibration at a different sequence? And I was like, I have been saying this for years. Finally the science has caught up with me.
I know, and I love that. I love that, Brady, because I do the same thing all the time. Because, like, I just somebody that I don't need science to, like, tell me something worse, and then the sign comes like 10 years later, and you're like, I've been saying this for so.
Well, I think there's something, I don't want to make, the female species seem any sort of more evolved than anybody else on the planet. But I feel like with the more of this kind of work that you're doing and you're teaching, and that I'm seeing more and more of, is like embracing the feminine, and like learning how to be both our fucking kick-ass, like, we tap into our masculine all the time to get shit done, to like get from here to there, and to like basically slay in our lives. But then there's also this like divine feminine, and I think the divine feminine is like vibrating on a level of like way more consciousness than we have tapped into yet. And I'm talking about like psychic abilities, and like healing abilities, and just like a vibration that I think is existing. We just gotta We just got to figure out how to access it. And I think everything that you're doing is all in line with that great purpose of tapping into our potential.
Well, oh, I agree with everything you're saying. And two, we never make the connection. Like our breath really is what powers, like that's our power. And our breath really is the feminine, and that's what powers
Hmm.
the masculine in us. It's almost like the opposite
Yeah.
way we think about it. Do you know what I'm saying? Like and like we
Yeah.
need to like totally like it's there in us, it's just dormant, right? And I guess like what I'm trying to do with all this stuff with the sheetrest and all that is like to wake that up, even if I just like nudge a little. And like it's as simple sometimes, like in my workshops, like we'll take like little things back. Like the girls will say it's so something, you're at the restaurant and you're not getting what you had ordered.
Hmm.
Like there's like mayo on a sandwich, you didn't want to have mayo, and you don't say
Hmm.
anything. Like little things like that. And then girls was like, you know what? I told the waiter, like I used my voice and I told the waiter, like, could I have another sandwich? Or like things that, like little
Yeah.
things like that, to take your power back.
Yeah.
Um,
Totally. I think like there's so much of our conditioning that is goes against using our actual full, true, rich voices and whatever they may actually sound like once we've unearthed them. Like it's not polite, it's too loud or it's unladylike, or, just be agreeable, be cooperative, just like don't it doesn't it's not that big of a deal, essentially. And that's deep, deep, deep in us, I think, for a lot of us.
Yeah, and like, you'll like even with like somebody like a stranger, like you get all red and like like blotchy because you've just like kind of voice. And I think too there's like a huge people think of like using their voice, like it doesn't mean you have to write a big social media something and like it starts in your home, like tell your partner like what you want, what you need, what you desires. I'm just so passionate about that. Like, your voice, the way you can practice your voice really is like on like these little everyday
Yeah.
um
I, I
things. You know what I mean?
I totally agree. And I think like, it is that weird, that body response, like the sweating and the blushing and the crying. Oh my God. So many times I've just opened my mouth to say something that I felt like I needed to say, and it comes out just like a wash of tears. And it's messy and it's
The
uncomfortable.
messy is the feminine, right? And like we need to
Yeah.
start like messy and chaotic and swirly. Like the way of the feminine is not that word like ladylike. Like we gotta like
Hmm.
completely debunk that. Like we totally slay it.
Yeah.
And anyways, I'm just so like I have so much to say about that. I'm so glad you're on. I'm so glad you're on. I feel we could talk forever.
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about this stuff. I
Yay. We'll
love
have
it.
to
I
have you
love it.
back for sure. I feel there's so much more we could talk. But because I also use sheetrest, like we kind of use it as like discover our own self-exploration tool for personal growth. And like, obviously, as you know, I'm big in like art and yoga really has helped me, but I really stress with the women taking our class, like I love for them to like figure what works for them, because it might be art or in yoga, but it might not be for them. It might be being in a choral, or like being in a chorus, or like being, you know what I mean? Like other things. Like I'm really big on, and that's
Yeah.
yoga too, right? Like becoming your own teacher, your own, guru. So I want to know what are your own like, and maybe we can stay in like the voice kind of just specific to using your voice, like what are your own tools,
Yeah.
or like do you have rituals that you do every day to like, we talked about this like, practice using your like your voice with the whole body, not just the throat and all that. And I know at the workshop, like I loved I forget now, I'm not a good student, but you had little like practice exercise. Do you know which ones I'm talking about?
Yep. So anything that I do on a daily basis would be I do a lot of neck stretches. I do roll
They're
downs, like
so good.
really slow, one bone at a time. Drop my head down, roll all the way to hang there for a bit, and then same thing, roll up as slowly as I can. That I find just like, takes a lot of tension out of my back. I do a lot of neck stretching, scalenes, like the muscles that you hold your head up that get unnecessarily tight for all kinds of reasons. I always it's very important to drink lots of water for your voice, so you gotta hydrate. If you know where your tension is, like your hips, a lot of people it's hip stretches, like get your hips open, like some thread the needle or some twists, like wring out your lungs, just increase the capacity for breath.
Yeah.
Like massage your own intercostals, the muscles between your ribs, or get somebody to do that for you. When I'm hanging upside down, sometimes I like to take my fists and just like pound across my sacrum, across my low back, and around my hips, out down. Again, it's just like giving yourself a lot of self massage. Honestly, is a big part of acting school. Is like, here's some techniques you can use when you can't get to a massage therapist, and any kind of self relaxation like that. I try to do at least every day. I also love to sing and dance. So I'll put my favorite tunes in my headphones and pick up dog poop in the backyard while I'm just singing at the top of my lungs. You know, I try to, what's that called, multitask. So I'm getting all my things in. But I think there's a really big clue in like light looking back on the things that I did for fun and for freedom back before I ever had, my teenage years or adult years, because I found that a lot of those things continue to be activities that I'm drawn to and want to be a part of, that, maybe my adult brain is like, you don't have time for that, or that's like, it's time to be an adult. And like, so dancing and singing and being goofy and playing are all really big parts of what works for me. And I think that there are clues for everybody in the activities that used to give them a lot of that freedom and space and that flow state.
And being in your body, right? You can't
Yes, great
speak
point.
your voice
Great point.
through your body if you don't know your body. Have you, one last thing before I go on, but have you, I remember when I first started teaching, like I would record myself. I mean, I'm kind of hardcore, but I'll record myself, or even like, let's say I'd listen to like a voicemail message of my voice, and I was like, what the fuck? Is that really
Hmm.
how I sound? Have you ever had that feeling? I've had that feeling, and like now, I totally know how I sound, and I like how I sound. But would you think like that was so like it was like super hard to listen to my own voice, but in the end, it served me so well. Like I don't think I could do as much public speaking, let's say, as I do now if I didn't know what I sounded like. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's one of the big things that I haven't done that I know I need to, and that I'm going to do starting today, is is listening to the my podcast episodes and giving myself some feedback. The thing is that you just have to be careful. If you tend to be really hard on yourself, you have to like take a minute before you start to listen back and like exercise lots of compassion for yourself, because it's really scary to listen
Really
to you.
scary.
but
Yeah.
but also, like, it can teach you a lot. You can be like, oh, when I said that thing, that was really important to me, I sounded like I didn't care. And sometimes that's like, why did I do that? And it's because I was holding tension, and it's because I wasn't speaking from a place of like honesty. I was speaking from a place of like, I think that this is how this moment should sound. And if you're based too much on how you think it should sound, then you're exercising way too much control over the sound of your voice. It can't be about the way that you sound. It has to be like those moments of, oh, I could feel my heart. I could feel my heart. I could hear my heart and my soul and my, the full expression of who I am in what I just said there. And it's because it was uninhibited.
Oh, I love that. I love it. Um, knowing what you know about your voice now, and it's a loaded question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. What does it mean for you to be a woman with a voice?
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's the small things about being able to, first of all, know what you want and what you need, and then to be able to express that. That has been like a huge, huge thing for me in the last few years is like, I let things go too far generally before I express them. And then, things are sloppy and messy when I think that if I was really brave about stating the things that I want and I need, that things might flow a little more smoothly. So that's what I would encourage a lot of women to to do is to be able to speak those things out loud and even when
Yeah.
it's scary.
Yeah. And that it starts with perhaps the small
Hmm.
things, the smaller.
Yeah, and just
Yeah. Okay.
trust that you have like wisdom beyond like even your own comprehension, and that you won't know the full like depth of that until you really start expressing who you are.
The last questions. Okay, really quick answers. So I'm gonna kind of just shoot them at you and just pick the first thing that comes to
Okay.
mind. Are you
Yes,
ready?
ready.
Are you sure? Are
Hmm.
you sure?
I
Are
am.
you
I'm
ready?
sitting up
Yeah.
tall.
Thank you. Breathing in my feet. Okay. What's your favorite mantra?
I love the bija mantras. I love chanting the sounds for each of the chakras.
Wow. Favorite flower?
Lupins.
They're
I
out.
know.
They're out now. Favorite time. Okay, what's the favorite book you've read in the past 6 months?
Um, it would be. It hasn't been the last 6 months because I've fallen off the reading train. But the brain that changes itself. Um,
Oh,
Such
so
a great
good.
neuroscience, accessible languaging, easy to read, super interesting.
I didn't know you liked the brain so
Oh,
much,
I do.
Bridie.
I do.
Love it. Okay, favorite podcast.
Turn me on podcast.
Why did I even ask that question? Yoga or running or
Oh
something else?
God, yoga and dancing.
Yeah. Book or Kindle?
Book.
Yeah. Coffee or
Oh
wine?
God, no, don't make me choose.
Oh my God, thank you so much for like taking your time and talking to me. I really, really appreciate it and teaching us about voice and thank you. I'm so grateful. Thank you,
Oh, you're so
Bridie.
welcome, and thank you for everything that you're doing with us. This is amazing. I'm so excited for you and all your participants.
Yay. And lastly, where if we want to find you, where can we find you best?
You can find me on Instagram at Turn Me On Podcast, or at Bryde Maclean on Instagram. If you have questions regarding any of the things that we've chatted about, through the podcast is a great venue to reach me. It's just turnmeonpodcast.com. There's forms there to contact me. I would love to talk. I love talking about this stuff and all kinds of other things. So reach out. I'm more than thrilled to talk about techniques and things like that.
Yeah, and I have so much ideas of pop as we talk, so we'll make sure to have you back on. I love that. You have so much to say. So much to say. That's all. That's all, Chic West. Thanks for joining us. Bye, Bridie.
Bye.